A few people have said that I seem to be really favouring Raw in my first episode in this new series with all of the guys who moved over from Smackdown onto Raw and all the other changes that were made. Worry not, I have a plan. You'll be saying the opposite of that 5 episodes down the line. Maybe. Or at least you'll be saying they're fairly evenly balanced and Kev's a fantastic booker and should take over at WWE immediately. Hello and welcome to part 2 of my Total Extreme Wrestling 2016 WWE playthrough that needs a catchier name than that. I'm Kev and we have our first episode of the new series of Smackdown Live, and we kick things off on Smackdown with Daniel Bryan coming out just announcing to everybody, look, I know Triple H took over the WWE on Monday. I know he fired Vince McMahon, or he tried to, until he realised he had a 10-year contract and he's just sent him on a long holiday instead. 10-year contract? That would have wiped out our entire budget paying him off. That wasn't part of the deal when old Trips bought the company, but what can you do? But Brian's just come out and said, don't worry, I've had a word with Triple H. I'm still going to be running Smackdown the way I haven't seen Shane anywhere. Don't know where he is. I think he's looking for his dad. But don't worry, I'm still here. Smackdown is still going to be awesome. I know we lost a lot of wrestlers, and he said wrestlers. I know we lost a lot of wrestlers who went over to Raw yesterday. Don't worry, we've got a few turning up here from Raw tonight, and a few surprises over the coming weeks as well. I'm just ironing out a few deals and a few contracts. I think you'll end up pleasantly surprised. The crowd enjoy it. It gets the crowd hot. It starts to show off well. We get a 76, and I mean, you can't really go wrong with sticking Daniel Bryan in the middle of the ring, can you? And then and this has really surprised me. I can't believe the rating this segment has got. Jinder Mahal, bearing in mind this is, I know he's a WWE champion, but bearing in mind I've been playing on versions of this database for like 6 months now, and I can never, ever build Braun Strowman up to be an absolute beast and a monster who's over. But apparently Jinder Mahal is straight there, straight away. So we moved to Jinder Mahal backstage with the Sings. Just title over his shoulder, giving these two a bit of a build-up, and talking about how he doesn't care about the changes to the management of the company. He doesn't care who he ends up facing for his title. He's a WWE champion, and he plans on staying that way. And the angle gets the crowd hotter, and the announcing quality was good. Our announcement team for Smackdown is Michael Cole, Corey Graves, and Tom Phillips. We're going to keep moving things around. I've got a few other things that need to take place. We're not going to keep JR and Jerry Lawler on Raw for long, but we need to keep some of our other guys busy here on Smackdown, so we've gone for the 3-man booth for now. And they're doing a good job of it, better than the other two did on Raw yesterday. But we get another strong segment, and I don't think we do have a gimmick. Oh, we might have a gimmick change for one of the Sings. I'm not going to pull the trigger on it right now because I can't remember what it was. But I think one of them had a weird gimmick, and I've just changed it to a different gimmick, or haven't changed it. I'm in the process of changing it. And then we go straight into Jinder Mahal having a match against Mark Henry, because, you know, he'll face anyone, anytime, any place, doesn't care who. Mark Henry comes out and Mahal beats him after a Yakuza kick just under 15 minutes into the match. Mark Henry's off his game and getting tired. I suppose that's a long match, 15 minutes for Mark Henry. But I wanted to bring out a big hulking beast to make Mahal look really, really strong. He gets an in-ring performance of 60, so better than Mark Henry. He's over much more in segments and angles than he is polished in a ring, which I guess is fairly true to real life. He is good on the mic, gets a reaction definitely from the crowds, but his matches aren't as good as they could be, and I guess that's reflected in these scores. Hence, I'm going to potentially be keeping him away from the main event of the show for a little while, unless he's against someone really top draw who'll drag a good match out of him, because we can't have a 61 rating or equivalent in that main event slot, because it will just bomb the whole show. So Jinder, we're going to build him slowly, I know he's already the champion, but we're going to build him in the mid-card until his in-ring performances start to match the angles that we get out of him as well. And then, talking of angles, what did I say about Daniel Bryan in the ring? It can't go wrong. We've got Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair, because remember, the women's division is now across both brands, so they're going to be doing overtime, working 2 nights a week to try and build them up as quickly as possible. And I tell you what, this has built them up nicely. They're getting 81 on this segment. Daniel Bryan's got Brie Bella out there just hanging out with him, because why not? Our women's title segment moves on a little bit, and Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair. I don't know, why is Brie there? She's just had a baby. Has she had the baby yet? The baby's probably there too. It's broken Daniel Bryan. He's got the whole family there and his little baby. It's an odd one. But Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair are telling Daniel Bryan that they want a shot at the women's title, and Alexa Bliss is there saying, join the queue. Everyone wants a shot at the title. And it kind of a bit of back and forth, and ends with Daniel Bryan saying, you two might want a shot, but we've got a title to unify first. So we've got to, at some point, before you two get a shot, have Alexa Bliss against Naomi, because that's going to decide who our actual women's champion is. But these two both want to jump the queue and take the Raw title off of Alexa before it's unified with Naomi. And Daniel Bryan's having none of it. Splendid. Are we moving on? We're moving on. And we move on into another... We've had some really strong angles on this show so far. We've got Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. Bray Wyatt's turned back up on Smackdown. Clearly, these two have got some unfinished business. And Bray Wyatt, and, well, one of them says to the other, I'd like to think it's Bray Wyatt, and he stopped being quite so weird, saying to Randy, look, we had a very silly match quite recently. I think we need a proper match, and I'm going to beat you in a proper match and move myself back up towards being a challenger for that title that I seem to be nowhere near now, despite the fact I held it really rather recently. They end up nose to nose, face off, and we book a match between the two of them for later on in the night. We're going to have Bray Wyatt against Randy Orton in a normal wrestling match to close SmackDown tonight, because I'd like to see them have a normal wrestling match, and it won't happen for a while Jinder Mahal is champion. We've got another tweak. This is a problem with me tweaking the roster like a week ago. I don't like, let's not turn anyone or do any gimmick changes until I remember what they're supposed to be. And then we move in to a tag match. Is Kofi Kingston injured in real life? He looked like he was jumping around rather easily on SmackDown the other day, but according to this database, he's got a broken ankle. So at the moment, the New Day is Big E and Xavier Woods, and Kofi Kingston is on the shelf for now. But we're going to have a 3-man tag match anyway, because originally I wanted a 3-man tag with all of the New Day in there. But apparently we can't have that. But the New Day, they want to take the tag titles off of the Usos. We're having a little bit of a... suggesting a little bit of an early stage of a feud between Sami Zayn and Baron Corbin. Corbin does have the Money in the Bank briefcase. Sami Zayn feels like it should have been his, but can't do anything about it now. And we have a 3-on-3 match. It's quite a long match. Xavier Woods ends up pinning Jimmy Uso after Lost in the... I don't know what a Lost in the Woods is. I'm sure I've seen it happen from time to time, but does anyone else remember ever seeing Xavier Woods' finisher before? Apparently, it's a thing that exists. It's quite a disappointing match. I hoped by throwing... I mean, this is a star-studded lineup of 3. We've got 2 main eventers according to the auto push button, and Sami Zayn, who is pretty high up the card as well, against a weak-ish... See what I did there? Usos and Baron Corbin, who's lower down the roster than he should be. But the 3 of them combined have put on a fairly poor match, with fairly poor ratings, actually. Across all of them, Corbin not doing very well at all. Xavier Woods also fairly poor. Sami Zayn's the star of the show along with Big E. And everyone else has work to do. But we kick off our SmackDown Tag Titles storyline, or it will be the World Tag Titles, because we're going to change that silly name as soon as we move into our pay-per-view in a couple of weeks, when we have our title match and the SmackDown belts get thrown in a skip, and the winner takes the old world tag team titles away. And then we move into another little segment. Dolph Ziggler's hanging out the back the way he does, and along comes The Miz. All right, Dolph, I'm back on SmackDown. Has much changed since I was last here? No? Excellent. He's still got his Intercontinental title slung over his shoulder. And then Bobby Roode turns up and says, all right, lads, I'm here too. I don't have my title. I left it down in NXT. But yay, I'm here. Apparently I'm going to be on Smackdown now. Hello. We also get a slight hint at a Dolph Ziggler face turn. I think we're a little bit light on faces on Smackdown with some of the changes that we've made. I don't like Dolph Ziggler as a heel. I know some people do. I don't really. And I think I don't really have a plan for him as a heel. But if we do turn him face at some point, there's a plan that we could have involving these three gentlemen that we're just going to sow the early seeds for now. See how they do together. 66 isn't a great sign, to be honest. But we'll see what develops, and at some point, I think a Dolph Ziggler face turn may well happen, unless you let me know down in the comments what a better plan for Dolph Ziggler might be. No, not. Yes, we're going to move on without making any changes. What do you know? It's Shane McMahon. He's turned up. He's having a little chat with Neville, and he is still here. He's not worried. He's turned his back on his dad completely, and he's saying, I've had a chat with Triple H as well, and apparently I've still got my job here on SmackDown too. Daniel Bryan's nowhere to be seen at this point. We haven't seen the two of them together yet. What's that all about? I don't know why I've put it as an interview with Neville. It's just a little chat with Neville, because what Shane does is the first wrestler he sees, to prove he still has his authority, he books into a match. Neville walks past and he books him straight into a 4-way cruiserweight match. It's not for the title, because that would be silly. But he books him into a 4-way match because, again, the cruiserweights, they're now on both brands as well, the same as the women's division, because we want to build these lot up too. So these lot get to move across both brands. So we get a match that, I mean, it's another disappointing one. Angle-wise, we're really strong on SmackDown. Wrestling-wise, it's not been the best of shows. Neville does well with a 54. Everyone else has got a long way to go before they're any good. Neville potentially needs a different gimmick as well, so that's something we'll have to look into. But obviously Neville wins the match because he's the only good cruiserweight we've got at the moment. And then we have Triple H, because he's got to turn up too. We're a bit high on authority figures over here on SmackDown. I wonder if there's a plan for that. You're not going to find out what it is today. But we've got a lot of authority figures here on SmackDown. But Triple H is here too. We've had Alexa Bliss and two of the challengers for the women's title appear earlier in the show.
Just ask me what you'd like me to do, and I'll try my best to help.
That's scared. I imagine I jumped a mile there. That's the problem with having an Amazon Echo in the room when talking about the Raw Women's Champion, whose name I won't say again. But we've got Triple H chatting with Naomi. I don't remember what this angle is about now. That ruined me. Triple H is in the ring with Naomi, just reassuring her that before anything else happens with the title, there's going to be a unification match between her and Bliss. But for now, she needs to do a bit of wrestling herself. He puts her against Nia Jax. It wasn't meant to be for the women's title, but apparently it was. But Naomi beats her anyway, so that's always good. That is the most terrible match I've ever seen. Goodness me, we need to get this title off Naomi because she can only do a 30. But Nia Jax is even worse with a 17. They don't click at all. But that is really terrible. Oh dear. An abysmal match. I agree. A 28 might be the worst match I've ever booked. This women's division needs work. And then we have just a little snippet. Daniel Bryan's back again now. The other two have disappeared. What is this all about? Who knows? But Daniel Bryan is just sat backstage, and Shinsuke Nakamura is a bit miffed that he's had AJ Styles taken away. Daniel says, "Don't worry, Shinsuke. I've got someone else for you." And then it cuts away. And then we go into our main event of the evening, which is Randy Orton against Bray Wyatt. And goodness me, did we need an 80 rating to end the show. We had some terrible wrestling on SmackDown this week, but some strong segments. And luckily, we've finished off with a strong match. Randy Orton defeats Bray Wyatt clean in a proper match with an RKO. out of nowhere, presumably. Strong performance from Randy Orton, and just establishes himself as a top guy here on SmackDown, heading into our pay-per-view, which is going to be coming up in the Great Balls of Fire slot, because Great Balls of Fire has been cancelled because it's a stupid name. But we're bringing in some old names from the olden days, and we're going to have a SmackDown exclusive pay-per-view after next week's SmackDown, which is going to be Bash at the Beach. And Randy Orton is rather confident that he's going to get a title shot as part of it. So we'll have to see if we've got an authority figure who can book such a match. But we won't find that out until SmackDown next week. Let's end the show. Yes, we want to continue without changing anything. The show overall gets a 68, which is, I mean, it's not ideal. I'm a little bit confused about why it's so low, actually, because we started fairly strong, we ended fairly strong. Perhaps I don't understand how this rating system works. Because that match, perhaps that should have been earlier on the card, because we've actually started really strong in the first hour and then dipped down quite a lot in the second hour. So perhaps we've just put some of these matches in the wrong order. Lessons learned. Apparently putting Jack Gallagher in a match was overusing him. Same with Noam Dar. Same with Rich Swann. I mean, what else am I supposed to do with him? Just have him selling the T-shirts or something? Yes, we don't have enough interesting storylines going on. That will all change, though, and we'll be back in a few days. I'm not exactly sure when the next episode will be, probably over the weekend, with next week's episode of Raw, and hopefully by then one or two of the new signings that old Triple H has started to put in place will start to appear on this roster. Let me know down in the comments who you think they might be. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you pop a like on there for me. Let me know down in the comments as well what I did wrong, what I did right, what you would do with storylines from here. I am interested in getting a bit of a wrestling discussion going, because I like talking about wrestling. It's fun. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.